Cleo Fields, Democratic congressman from the state of Louisiana, with us tonight here on the Hill. Nice to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Blake.
Thanks for being in. So the president says we essentially could send he could essentially send the National Guard troops in to your state and into New Orleans. Does it need the help?
Well, first of all, if the president was serious about solving crime, he would have started 4 years and 7 months ago when there was an insurrection at the Capitol, right there, and you had a bunch of thugs and ruffians who invaded the Capitol and tried to steal the Constitution. That was the time he should have used the National Guard. Now, the governor doesn't need the president to send the National Guards into New Orleans. If the governor wants to use the National Guards, he can do it without the president. In fact, when he uses the president, it takes the authority away from him. If the governor allows the president to federalize the National Guard, then the National Guard cannot do police work in Louisiana. So it's just a big prop. I mean, it's not, they're not serious about solving crime. They're looking for, big props, and we shouldn't do our men and women who serve in our armed services that.
When you bring up January 6th, and when I hear J.B. Pritzker saying we don't need the help, even though in Chicago there was something like 58 people who were struck by bullets, unfortunately, over the weekend, does it weaken the argument and make it seem like Democrats are falling into a trap?
No, I don't think so. Look, at the end of the day, obviously, New Orleans has a crime problem. Every city probably in this country has a crime problem. But you don't solve crime problems by sending in the National Guards. That's why we passed the law, I think, in 1870-something, to do just the opposite. You don't use our military to fight crime. You use police officers.
So what is the solution then, as you see it?
Well, we can start by not cutting $811 million from crime prevention programs, $3.7 million cut from the state of Louisiana. We can start there. If the president was really serious about solving crime, he would not cut prevention programs like the one that he cut a few days ago.
What about ending the sanctuary city status of New Orleans?
Well, I mean, I think I'm more concerned about the due process that immigrants are receiving, not only in New Orleans, but all across the country. We shouldn't have law enforcement agencies walking around in the middle of the night with masks on, stopping people, arresting them, and not giving them due process of law. And I think that's a real serious problem. And I just don't think that the president is serious about solving the crime problem, not here in D.C.
Do you feel safer here in D.C.?
No, I don't feel safer. In fact, most people, look at the restaurant business here in D.C., 30% a drop in participants. People are not going to restaurants. People don't want to be in a city with their National Guards with rifles. I mean, that doesn't make people feel safe. That makes them feel unsafe. And it's really disrespectful to these men and women. These men and women have been trained to fight, wars. They have been trained to fight on battlefields. They have not been trained to fight within the cities and localities that we represent.
I was looking at Open Table data the other day. You talk about the restaurants. There was a drop. They track this. It's Open Table. It's their business. There was a drop for like 7, 8, 9 days or so, whatever it was, and then a pickup. Clearly, it seemed like there were some folks who were trying to figure out what was going on and then made their way back. We'll leave it there. I appreciate both of you, Congressman Cleo Fields. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.